And on that note, I'll hand it over to our panel host, Hadia from Bunnings.
Thanks, Cam. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you enjoyed that awesome spread, and I hope we don't put you to sleep after that. So, as Cam said, I'm the quality practice lead at Bunnings. Been at Bunnings for about a year, so been quite lucky to work alongside Cam. Really, from my perspective, I really look at lean testing and overall quality uplift in that QA space. I think we'll start with introductions and then talk about the topic. Yeah.
Thanks, Surya. My name is Sharam. I'm the head of APAC and EMEA for Axel Cube. I've been here at Axel Cube about 3 years and setting up the operations for the region. Before that, I was the head of engineering at Commonwealth Bank and head of dev and test at Cuscal.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rakhi. I'm currently Software Quality Director for Agilent Technologies. I have been in this industry for almost 20 years now, and I've done a variety of things, manual testing, automation testing, software development, lead activities, managerial activities. But I just wanted to share that the thing that's closest to me is the manual testing. I really enjoy, when I see something that looks somewhat not right, and getting to the root to it, talking to developers, talking to product owners. And I think it requires a mix of technical collaboration, communication skills, and I really enjoy that detective work. So that's my favorite.
Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Watson, Head of Quality Engineering at PEXA, and it's my 3-year anniversary at PEXA actually today, so yay for me. Previously, I've worked with Deloitte for a number of years, Accenture for a number of years. I've spent probably too much time at Telstra in a variety of roles, being a contractor as well as working for consultancies as well. Worked in Singapore for a couple of years with Barclays Investment Bank, which was really interesting. Originally from the UK, and actually started my testing career with a company called Imago QA, which then became Plan IT. So it's nice to see the Planet guys here as well. So predominantly been in the quality space, have done some sort of large program delivery type roles, but over the last 20 years I've been focused in the quality and testing space and certainly passionate about the area.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Pagan. I'm Global Head of DevSecOps for TTC, a role that kind of brings together that passion for testing with looking at quality engineering and how do we get developers and testers to work more collaboratively together. My background, probably 25 years in IT, started my journey in the UK as well, all the way as a junior test analyst. So done the hard yards. More recently, held head of test roles at Macquarie Bank and MBN, and in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, diversified into looking at engineering practice and CI/CD and DevOps in a broader sense.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We're keen to hear what you have to say and hear about your experiences and insights. So we've got a pretty broad topic, testing triumphs, strategies for winning the battle. So kind of broken it down into 3 key themes. And the first theme is around adapting to the changing role of the tester. So my first question is, should we fear companies that are pushing towards no testers? I was waiting for some reactions. Yeah. Rob, do you want to go?
I think context is very important here, and what type of company you are, who you're actually selling your services to. So I think there's some really good examples in the more technical spaces. You can look at companies like AWS, Zendesk, who have testing's really embedded into their development environment. But if you've got SaaS products, you're configuring, how are you really ensuring that's fit for purpose, everything's integrating? And in those cases, I think the tester can add a value add above that. So I think companies need to be really clear about what they're trying to achieve and not just have no testers for cost side, which is usually the main focus.
So no testers, but more analysts, right? So that's the thing. So it really is, I don't think we should look at it as titles and say, hey, look, there's going to be less testers and we want just developers. Maybe there's going to be more developers who's not going to be coding with a programming language, right? So like your point there, so you're configuring a Salesforce, say, process. You're not coding. You are a Salesforce developer, but all you're doing is basically configuring a process, which is any tester, right? And we'll come to that, right? There's, when we talk about that in detail, anyone can do, right? So as long as you have that business functional knowledge, you can do it. So I don't think any teams are downsizing, right? Everyone knows in a project you worked on is, have you ever seen a contractor who was hired for 6 months, let go after 6 months? Never happens, right? So there's never, ever downsizing. No project finishes on whatever the plan is. There's always more to do. So if you get more efficient in doing something, you just find ways to do more. So I don't think there's anything to fear about, when companies say, hey, we're going to have less testers, more developers, it just means that there's going to be a different type of role in the organization for everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. And certainly, I would be wary of them saying no testers. I think it's who's actually doing the testing is the important thing. And we're obviously moving towards these cross-functional teams where any individual should be able to play any role in the team. I'm not quite there. I'm sure you are. But I think it's really testing. It has to still happen from whether it's a developer doing it, whether it's a tester doing it, and to your point, where people say anyone can test, but not anyone can test well. It's very much a specific skill that's inherent in certain people, and definitely a specific mindset. So I certainly would be wary of people saying no testers. It's who is doing that and how they're doing that. It's more important.
Absolutely. So.
Yeah, sure. So I come from an industry which is very different. So Agilent basically manufactures instruments, and then we create software that talks to those instruments, right? So we cannot function without manual testers. Our manual testers are PhDs in chemistry who actually use those instruments as a customer would, and it cannot be replaced by automation. We do add automation, obviously, to support it, but at least in that industry, I do not see manual testing going away or testing going away in general anytime soon.
That's great news. Just off the back of what Shriram Richard was saying, as testers, how can we stay relevant?
Yeah.
I'll jump in on that one. So I think certainly if I was starting my testing journey today, I wouldn't be overly successful because the desire now to have highly sort of technical skills as well as your domain-specific knowledge is really growing. And I think certainly being not the most technical person in the room, probably the least technical person in the room, certainly struggled at that stage. So I think really focus on those technical skills as a whole. Learn what you can contribute to the whole product life cycle is going to be really, really important as well. And learn your craft, read, come to these types of events and really be understanding of what testing quality means proactively across that product life cycle.
I just wanted to share. So I have worked as a software developer as well for 5 years. And what I have observed is there's a different paradigm on how software developers and test engineers work. Software developers are quite, there's a vertical slice they work through, and that is needed because of all the technical problems and everything. And the software testers work, on the lateral side. So they have to think of the workflow, the end-to-end things, right? They have to think as a customer and the edge cases and have to have the domain knowledge. So I think these and need to know all the permutations and combinations. So they are two very different skill sets. And if you are able to do that, you will always remain relevant, I think. Yeah.
So how do you stay relevant, right? And spot on there, right? So it's about looking less, so at a system level, thinking about it from a more business level. Right, so that's where it's just a small pivot, right? Rather than looking at okay, I'm testing an application, I'm testing a particular system, I'm testing this. Just look at, you start thinking about what is it doing to the business, right? Why are we doing this? And now how do we make sure that this is solving the business problem? So that's where you kind of, start thinking slightly differently. Rather than thinking at test case level, you start looking at what is the outcome, right? And how do we achieve testing of that outcome? And that will, in essence, get rid of this whole manual testing tag or, a system tester, or I'm a UAT tester. There's none of that matters, right? So you just go and say, I am a quality assurance consultant, right? Or I'm the quality enforcer, right? And what I do is I understand more about the business. I understand more about how the industry itself is operating. Keep yourself up to date. That's going to be, obviously, it's a dummy 101 kind of, first point, which is you got to stay relevant into what's happening in the industry, keep upskilling yourself. But, from a mindset perspective, start thinking at a more higher level rather than looking very much inside your bubble.
I think I'd just add to that, and it sort of builds on your point, that it's about really showing your value to the organization. So being able to bring that sort of business expertise and actually say, look, this is how we can add value, whether that is optimizing our testing, running less, or it is about focusing on those use cases, understanding policy requirements, maybe in a specific financial industry. All of this stuff can add incredible value to the business.
Yep.
So, we're not often good enough at selling ourselves about that.
Absolutely, I think that's a key point, selling ourselves. And as QAs, we generally don't. We're introverts most of the time.
Yeah.
So would you say the manual tester is a relic role of the past? Shriram, I think.
Oh, can I please? You know how much that flagged
It could
me.
be controversial, but was manual tester ever a thing?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, if you go back 15, 20 years ago, it was a tester. That's it, right? So, tester is testing a certain business process, you're validating the outcome. So, as, if you take a driver as a driver, there's no manual driver, stick driver, there is a four-wheel drive driver, so to speak, right? So, you achieve testing, so when there were new technologies came in, people wanted to identify themselves differently. They started calling, automation tester and engineer and all of that. To me, ultimately, the businesses are got backwards into that kind of mindset to say, functionally, what I want is a team which can give me, so they can develop something, right? They can design it, they can develop it, they can test it, they can deploy it, and they can support it. That's it, right? So it's just no longer about the role or the title. It is about the team.
Yeah, agree. And I think just to camp, if there's two things you take away from this this overall conference: one, no more quality coaches; two, no more manual versus automated testers. We are just testers. So please, let's get that out in the industry. Really, really important from that perspective. And I think it talks to the point Cam talks about, the slightly sort of derogatory or demeaning feeling we get as quality professionals. So let's not use that terminology. We don't say automated developers versus a manual developer if you're using Copilot or something like that. So yeah, really important, and certainly something I get perhaps a little bit too heated up about, but it's I think something we as an industry should sort of strive towards. It is testing. We are using automated solutions. We're using exploratory type tools. It's just types of techniques that enable us, like Sharon says, to get to the the solution is the product fit for purpose. So that's just my plea on top of Cam's.
Thank you. Any last words?
No, I would completely agree with that. Yeah.
I might just throw the opposite. Also, and not no, but from an automated tester point of view, is actually really understand the craft of manual testing. Yeah. So we often talk about it one way, sort of this split. But I think the expectation going back to teams is you have individuals who can play across a different set of roles from a quality perspective.
Yeah. All right, thanks guys. I think we're ready for topic number 2. So keeping up with the latest automation technologies. guess from Rob, a DevOps perspective, how would you ensure, or what would you consider before choosing an automation framework?
Okay. I think before you even start talking about frameworks, and I think we almost dive into the technology. We love the newest tool on the block. This is this month's favorite. And if you look at where we are, there's now about 50 tools in the market, where if you go back 5-6 years ago, there was probably about 5. So we're seeing a massive growth within that. But we're still really having the same issues, which is how does automation stick within a company and continue to add value? So for me, when I'd start, is always focus on, well, what are you trying to achieve? Who's going to use it? How is it actually going to work? And almost be funded going forward. So you're not building white elephants, which we still see, plenty today.
Yeah. And I've seen, like, in my company, and especially when it's a big company, there's usually a lot already there. Like, Agilent is 18,000 employees spread across the world. And, we start with, let's do the POCs, let's try all the tools in the market, and there's a lot to do, and we don't have enough time. And then later on, we'll be like, they're already using that tool. They've already established everything around it. So I think it makes sense to just reach out to other people and see what they're doing. They would have already gone through all the problems you will now encounter. So learn from leverage from other people. I think that helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, echoing all of that. And I think it's also just being cognizant that ensuring that your framework is fit for purpose for one product. It may not then be fit for purpose for a different project, be it monolith versus, say, a digital product. So just be a bit flexible around that. Obviously, you would potentially invest heavily in one framework, but don't be wedded to that. Like Rob says, there are new frameworks, tools coming out almost weekly at the moment. So again, back to the stay relevant and understand what's happening, but don't be wedded to a particular product if it's not going to fit your purpose.
There's a question here.
Got a question?
Yeah, one quick statement on the open source tools. Open source tools used to be something that somebody would write and maybe somebody else would help, and it mightn't get a new release for years. But a lot of the tools now, Playwright in particular, has basically been adopted by Microsoft, and they have a monthly release schedule, which is actually competing with a lot of priced tools. So look around, do your market research, because a lot of the open source tools are committing to an incredible release schedule. And if you get in on the tool and you push them in the right direction, you're going to end up with something that's custom built to test your application. So get into open source.
Yep.
Definitely consider open source, but also consider other tools in the market. Right. So. True, probably. Right. So I think it's about what you get. Right. So you can get from A to B in. A motorcycle, a bicycle, if you have the energy and capacity, right? I can't, right? But then I like to get in my car, and some people like to get in the Tesla and put in autopilot, right? So it just depends on what you can afford and what you want, right? But then always make sure you pick something that is expandable, scalable, right? It also look at something strategic, which will, even though you may not do DevOps today, don't pick something today which is not DevOps ready, because then you're not going to be doing one change, you're going to be doing 2 changes when you are going to go down the DevOps journey, right? So pick something now which will be DevOps friendly, which will fit into the ecosystem, right? Does it talk to my, say, Jira? Does it talk to my, say, CI/CD tools, right? So just make sure that that is there, right? So, and also don't just pick a tool based on, I have applications. I have Angular framework today, and I have a SQL database, and I have a desktop app. So I'm just going to pick something. You're going to move to MongoDB in 6 months' time, right? So pick something which is scalable and which would be able to cover a broad set of technologies. Yeah.
I want to ask the panel this question. Do you think Cypress is an outdated framework, or do you think it still has some relevance to that, Cypress?
I have a conflict of interest, so I'll let someone else put it.
We'll answer this question, and we might leave questions to the end, guys. We will leave some time for questions. want to answer that one, and then
Look,
we can...
I think it's really interesting at the moment, the Cyprus playwright, battle,
Yes,
effectively.
fight, yeah.
And I think at the moment, you've obviously got Microsoft pouring a lot of investment into Playwright and building that developer ecosystem around it. But Cyprus is still a very strong product and still has a very strong roadmap. So I think it's about, again, going through that exercise for yourself, doing that comparison, and actually landing as a team on what you want to take forward. I think Cyprus will still be here in years to come.
Yeah.
I think Playwright will as well. So
Yeah, and speaking from a PEXA point of view, we've got a heavy investment in a Selenium framework, we've got Cypress, and we've got Playwright as well. And that sort of arcs back to where I was talking to fit for purpose for product or project. Don't be wedded. If Cypress works for you and you've invested 6, 12 months in it and it's working with producing the results you want, don't be looking at the shiny new thing just because it's a shiny new thing.
So you've chosen a framework. Next steps, how do you get team buy-in?
It's the other way around. I can't choose a framework. Sorry, it's the other way around. So you can't choose a framework without team buy-in, right? So unless they are part of the process of selection, so you're not going to be able to force it down. So it's got to be a team effort. Yes, as a leader, you set the parameters, you lead, you guide them. So if you've got different perspectives, you moderate, right? And you figure out what's best. But then ultimately, if you don't get the buy-in before you choose something, I can say 100% guarantee you're not going to be able to get it adopted.
Yeah, that's true. And you need the buy-in from the team who are actually going to be using that tool day in, day out. And the other part of the puzzle is buy-in from your executive team or the senior management, right? And from senior management perspective, it doesn't really matter, I think, which tool you use till the time we are getting some return on investment, till the time we can support it for long term. If it's overly expensive, obviously you have to put a better business case. But I think from management perspective, if you can provide them the higher level, if we invest this much money, this is the output we are going to get, this is how much it is going to reduce the testing hours or the testing time, this is how it is going to affect the customers, the field defects and things like that. So this is what is relevant for them. That's what they worry about. I remember my GM telling me, since we put this automation in place, I know the field defects have reduced. That's what matters to them. It doesn't matter what's implemented on the lower level. So, you have to manage those things there. Yeah.
I think the core thing here, and this is actually with any technology you try to roll out across an engineering team, is make it easy.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you solve the problem, so with automation frameworks in particular, how does that integrate into your test management tool or your pipeline? That's just ready to play with a team. And that's really how you can achieve kind of scalability across a large organization. And I think it goes to buy-in. You can't necessarily get buy-in across 1,000 people. You can work with a few teams, get that, but how you move that across is about ease and people going, hey, I can just plug and play.
So how do you build an easy-to-use framework that lasts?
Good question.
An easy-to-use framework that lasts. How do you build?
So my personal opinion is... So Hadi, I think treat it as a product. Manage it as a product, and to Rob's point, make it easy to use, make it accessible, offer training, really develop a roadmap of how you're going to roll it out, and then actually have it as a product. Make sure you're updating it, make sure you're listening to your customers, your internal customers, your quality teams, your devs, whoever's using that framework, to make sure you're providing them that, establishing that framework and enhancing it with the functionality that is actually needed. So treat it with care and real product focus is my opinion.
I just want to comment on the great point you made, which is usually missed whenever something new is introduced, is about the training and the support, ongoing support required in the initial kind of embedment state, right? So there's a lot of time and effort put in, right? So there's there are organizations that spend 6 months evaluating 10 tools and open source frameworks and proof of concepts and this and that. So if you just think about the money they've invested into it as people's time, right? They spend $250,000 into that. They pick a tool and they have a 2-week training program and they expect the results come in 4th week. It's not going to happen, right? So when you do your business case, there is the investment you're going to make into whatever kind of tool or framework you're going to pick. But you have to plan out the basically, how are you going to roll it out, right? So there are different strategies in there which works with different organizations. You can do like a, land and expand kind of one, right? There's the Spotfire approach where you go, there's 20 teams, I'm going to pick 4 teams, right? And then I'm going to get in there and then it's going to grow, right? There's different approaches. It works based on the scale of the organization and the immediate needs of your organization. But ultimately, unless you plan how your first so when you hire someone, the first question you ask them is, okay, what is your 30, 60, 90-day goals? And that planning that you got to do when you're choosing an appropriate kind of automation solution as well, or any solution for that matter,
I would add, or a theme I often talk to companies about, is the kind of democratization of automation. So really enabling others to get involved in automation. One of the key failure points I often see is you've got the single automation tester in your agile team. What happens when they go on holiday? And really getting that team buy-in and setting it up for everyone to be able to contribute. That's.
Awesome. My last question for this topic, is AI going to change everything?
It's going to change a lot, definitely. I think any new technical advancement that happens, that changes things. But it's not always for the worse, right? The change is not always bad, right? So if there are a few things, if you embrace it and if you can use it for your efficiency gains, then you are going to get benefit out of it. One of the examples I see is like you build a framework, you want to move, say, from Cypress to Playwright or any other transfer. We never have time for it. We have invested 2 years in it, and now we want to spend another 2 years in it. Can AI help with that? And that could be something you have been waiting for years to do, and now there's a tool that can really expedite that. So I think you can, if you embrace it, if you learn, adapt, ride the wave, then you can get a lot of benefit out of it, like any technical advancement.
Yeah, absolutely. So AI is going to change everything, right? Just the same way mobile phones change everything from landline. But it's good. It has made connectivity more often, right? So yes, my mom calls me more often, and I don't call back, but still, right? So it is for the good. It is going to change. It's inevitable, right? But like you said, embrace it. Look for opportunities to kind of use it for even the littlest of things, because then you will also get ideas on how you can use it for the bigger things, right? So the simplest example is I play cricket. I know I don't look like it, but I play cricket, and I'm part of the committee of a cricket club, right? And we have a social media volunteer, and the person's job is building up to the cricket season, put some posts on Facebook, get players to come, register, chase them up, right? And then when the season goes, weekly post, hey, we lost, but still, we did well, right? So that's the job of a person. And as a volunteer, to do this regularly, come up with creative ways of doing that. It used to be a hard slog, right? So we used to go through a new volunteer every year, because by the time halfway through the season, they don't have time to just collate all of this data and put it in a funny way. Now, with ChatGPT, and this guy, the one who's taken over, he swears by it. He's so happy every time. So he's done, 15 different posts leading up to the season, everything from ChatGPT. Apparently he said, all right, give me a funny way of how I can encourage someone to, in 20 words, how can I get someone to come and play, right? And so, you got some prompts, and he did that. Now, for the reports, he just says, hey, here is the data, is a text file. Now formulate it into a report, right? And it writes a nudge report. He posts it, right? So now it's a very small thing. It's got nothing to do with technical testing, so to speak. But then by doing that, he's going to figure out there is a way he can apply it in his professional, business, right? In his day-to-day activity. So embrace it, play with it, as long as it's free before it goes behind a paywall, right? Get on with it.
I think if we look at it and where can we use it, very much in an assistive state. I think at the moment there may be some areas where it could replace. Unit testing is probably at the frontier of there. There's some interesting companies which are, creating historical unit tests across all that code where it was never written in the first place. But for things like test coverage, for simplifying that whole process using Copilot, which I know a lot of people do, just to get the frame of the tests in place, data, and working out what data permutations you might want to run for your test. So there's a lot of examples which, there's plenty out there to read and look at, and a lot of people experimenting at the moment.
Yeah, agree. And I think, just the efficiency gains is something to look at and use it to your advantage. Yes, it's coming. Will it take over the world? Hopefully not. I think the human aspect, certainly from a testing point of view, is really important as well. But use it for, the big buzzword at the moment is what can we do, how can we do more with less? So use it for that efficiency, whether it's, getting your test data, converting to Playwright, whatever it is. Yeah, don't be afraid of it and use it where you can.
Yeah, it's a really smart tool in your hand. It's a tool, but it's a tool. It cannot replace a human, it's a tool.
The only thing I would add to it is don't put your requirements or company IP.
That's a big thing to consider.
So just be careful. All right, thanks, guys. I think we're on time for our third topic, which is how to achieve a QE transformation. So the buzzword of the year.
Yeah.
First question, what is?
Quality coaches.
We had no to quality coaches.
So apart from loads of quality coaches, what is a QE transformation, firstly?
Okay, I might take a stab at this. I think quality engineering is not a new idea.
Yeah.
We've talked for as long as I've been in the industry, shift left.
Yeah.
Ideas of bringing quality earlier in the process, whether it's from requirements or into development activities. And I think what we're seeing now is this kind of correlation between some of those ideas and what has come out of the CI/CD and DevSecOps, capabilities. How can we bring this all together more in a holistic framework of achieving the product quality? And I think there's some really interesting areas around how we move to shift right, get product out to customers earlier, feedback cycles, use of toggles. All of this fits within a broader kind of quality engineering umbrella.
Yeah, and I certainly echo that. I think it is the culmination of the last 25, 30 years of where testing's been going and is going to go. Really, I mean, I think it's a good thing. It's quality is everyone's problem until we get a defect in production, and then it's my problem. We know that. But it's really making sure that we're shifting left, spreading left. I prefer, but also making sure that we are doing those tests that are really customer centric, customer focused as well. It's about quality aspects at every level, and probably slightly transitioning from that pure testing mindset of, maybe just functional, but looking at observability, looking at our performance, looking at, those non-functional aspects, again, earlier in the product life cycle as well.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think it's designing for quality rather than quality sitting at the end of the cycle and just finding defects, and then you are masking your product to fix those defects and creating a technical debt, that you can never pay off. So if you are right from the starting, finding the problems in requirements, then you can design your software accordingly, and you design for quality, and you set up for success.
Yeah, so when we're saying how do we plan and how do we do QE transformation, right? So then making the basic assumption that say we are here, right? Wherever we are, and the aim is somewhere here. Right, that's the aim of transformation is to go from A to B. I would always start with define what B looks like. Right, start with that. So don't set B is something I'm going to get in 6 months, 3 months, 9 months. Right, what is B? And B could be everything that we mentioned. Right, B could actually be we need to have observability in place. Right, we need to have complete end-to-end testing in place. Right, we need to have we need to be able to. We're not even agile yet, but we need to be able to deliver a product to production in a certain shorter life cycle. Not even say 2 weeks, right? Say shorter life cycle, right? We need to have right CI/CD in place, right? Just define B, and then what you do is it's basically you can reach like that, you can go reach like that. You can take small steps, you can take big steps, but until you don't have your North Star, until you don't have the B defined, you can't make effective decision making. So you have B. You have some basic guiding principles. First principle is any step I'm taking should be able to take me from A to B, right? As long as it is not taking me the other way, that's fine. So that's still progress. So define that, and then you do your roadmap, right? So, and the reason why Agile is becoming more popular now is because you can make small steps. If you fail, you can pivot, you can move again, right? So same way, try not aim for that straight line to say from today to there. I want to put in a $2 million, $3 million, $20 million transformation program, which is going to take me from here to there. The program's going to be 4 times as expensive, and you will not reach there, right? So rather than that, once you have the goal set, set up mini projects, right? So just get this, certain CI/CD pipeline in place. That's it. That's the first step I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. Or even before that, just get some scheduled tests in place. Just run tests on a bad job daily at 5 p.m. That's all I'm doing, right? But if I can do that, then I set myself up to set up a CI/CD pipeline which can run at any time. So it's just about having that kind of North Star as to where you want to get to, then make those small incremental steps to get there.
Absolutely, thank you. So I guess, I've seen quality analysts become QEs and we've seen developers become QEs. Can you guys give us some examples of your real-world QE transformations?
Yeah, I can probably start. So as I told, Agilent is an instrumentation company, and the dev to quality ratio is not huge. So we would always, like few years back, we would always come in the end when the stories have been implemented. After a few sprints, we are like, oh, now we have to quickly test them. So we realized that we were missing a lot of edge cases and specifications. We were actually finding a lot of problems in the requirements at the end. So what we did was, okay, the quality engineers, because we have the PhDs in chemistry, they are actually customer advocates. They will embed in the process of requirement specification. They will review so the product owners will give the requirements, they will review them, write the user acceptance test, and in that process, we found a lot of missing edge cases. And that helped us really to design for quality. So that's something I'm really happy about. And so yeah, that's what we started doing, and it showed a lot of benefit.
I think, to Shriman's point, picking up on that, it is about breaking things down. It's having that North Star. Why do we want quality engineering? What is the challenge we're actually trying to solve from a company perspective? Now, if that is we need to release quicker to market, there are probably a set of capabilities that you need to build to. And so you do need to look at those technology aspects. But the other side, which is often forgotten, is the people side. And it's the skills, it's the culture, it's some of the process aspects that actually need to change. And a common overlooked area, which always we think about last, is actually change management. How does this work? We have this process, there are people who approve, but we want now to have 10 deployments a week. How do you scale that process so that can work? So, and you really have to go back and redesign those and engage people, and often outside of your team to solve those issues.
Yeah, and I think that Rob's point there really talks to what is QE. We've gone from it's just testing to now ways of working, culture, training, framework, adoption, change management side of things. So I think again, as we've talked, it is that holistic approach to quality across the board, and it's a relatively there is a hard definition, but I think that people aspect and the ways of working aspect. And sometimes I sit there thinking that's not my job, but it is that culture and rolling that culture out is really, really important to ensure that we get a quality product at the end of the day. And I think just to Shriman's point, that incremental move is really important. Don't take big chunks straight away. Just really focus on either low-hanging fruit or stuff that's going to get you a shout out at a town hall, and then you start getting your momentum going, and then you get your more and more people on board as well. So it is absolutely a tough journey. It will be hard, but if you get those incremental small wins, it makes it a lot more palatable.
I'll make a very small point, right, Richard? So, spot on about, I don't know what the definition of QE is. Right, I have no idea, right? So every time I look, it's different. Every job profile you look, it's different. But another point that he made is that whatever your organization's definition of QE is, be ready to do it, right? So now that is your job. That's it. So it's basically and that's the main thing about the spreading left that's happening is that there's no silos. There's no line where a developer stops and then a tester starts and where a support and operations person start. There's no line, right? So it is all kind of broken down and everyone's just drawing a cloud, so to speak, right? It's a transparent area. It's anomalous, and you could be fitting somewhere in there, right? As long as you're in the organization and you like what that business is doing and you want to grow, be ready to learn new things to fit into it. No organization is going to say, no, sorry, this is what my QE definition is. You don't fit into this QE, out of here. No one's going to do it. If the organization definition of QE is that, as long as you're willing to learn and do that, there's no problem, yeah?
Yeah, and just be prepared for if your organisation's got a definition of QE today, I can guarantee it will be different tomorrow, so just be prepared for that as well.
Yeah. So key takeaways for our audience is plan, career development, spread left, collaborate with everyone in the team. Anything else to add?
Just stay resilient. I mean, think, to Cam's point, and after 20 plus years in the industry, an ex-boss of mine at Barclays in Singapore, he wrote that a recent article that you have to be slightly insane to stay in this industry for any period of time, and I think that certainly should resonate with everyone in the room. But also, we do what we do because we like what we're doing, and it's that real customer focus. And for me, I like finding faults in people and products. Sorry, not people, products. That's. It is that inquisitive nature and making sure that you're doing the best you can do for the company you work for. So I think don't get down if you get derogatory comments. Continue to show your value. There is absolute value there. Love to see a company that doesn't test. Wouldn't be buying their products or using their products. So yeah, just stay resilient. It's certainly a funny time in the Australian market at the moment. So stay resilient, stay within the community. It's a great community that Cam's pulled together.
Slightly is varying somewhere from slightly to very much, right? So that's no definition of that insanity.
All right, that's the last question I have for you guys. Any questions from the audience?
Good.
Anyone awake? We've got a hand up at the back there.
Not so much a question, but something that I want to bring forward in my time, improving myself and learning new skills and being a freelance contractor. So I'm always dependent on myself to do my own learning. Usually I find with test analysts who want to progress or learn new skills, they find themselves in direct conflict with the priorities of the project. I realize that you are facing your release manager or project manager, because the minute you say, I can spare 6 hours a week to do personal training, they go, what?
Yeah.
Not as much work on this guy. So it is because their metrics is budget. Hours. The minute you say I have time, it's money away from your manager. So that's something that needs to be brought forward. People progress. Usually time at home is a place. At work, nobody, despite the fact that they say how we want to invest in our people, blah, blah, it's actually against the very interest of your manager when you're learning. Have you found that to be the case?
Actually, that's a very interesting point, and we are going through an exercise where we are working on the training and development for the entire company, not only for the test engineers. And a very interesting point was brought forward: is training just doing some LinkedIn training, attending some workshops or things, or can you develop yourself by working in, say, another team? Or a different project, something that will still be adding value to the business, but you will be learning something new. So, we are exploring the ways where, for example, I told that I have domain engineers in my team who are scientists, and they are doing software quality. And so I try to get them to do application chemist work to expand their knowledge. I try to move people from one product to another so that they can expand their knowledge. So it doesn't have to be always the classroom training. It can be done in many other ways that can work for business better. So I always look for those opportunities in my company.
And just at PEXA, and there's a few PEXArians in the audience, so please don't say I'm wrong here. So what we try and do, and it doesn't work the whole time, is a 70-20-10. So 70% of your time is spent on pure delivery work, 20% on tech debt, and 10% on your personal learning. And that's sprint based, and we try and carve that time out. Fortnightly from that point of view. It doesn't always work, but it is kind of a sort of an ethic that we work through as well. So maybe something you can try and suggest, obviously difficult as a contractor, but something that we certainly sort of try and focus on.
Definitely. It has to be built in the schedule if you want to do that, and it has to be allocated points or whatever in the sprint planning. I know it's not the easiest thing.
Possibly unpopular opinion, if you're not in Rakia Richard's team, and if you are somewhere where you say I want to take 6 hours to learn something and they give you 20 hours of work, just say environment is down.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that going to spend 6 hours on that, right? So your work's going to take as long as it takes. No one's actually counting the hours. No one's seeing how long you're logged in.
Oh my God.
Right? If you are in such a place that they're not going to give you the time to, professionally develop yourself, and they're not giving you this appropriate support. Is that right? Don't tell them.
I'm glad my team is not here.
I can walk away from this and I'll be okay.
All right. Got another question down the front?
Question/comment. Just a little thing about the whole quality engineering. I don't know how many people know Prince, but it's a UK-based project methodology. And one of the most amazing things about Prince that hasn't really escaped into the big wide world is Prince views everything as a deliverable and a checking task. And that's what quality engineering should be about, not just an individual doing something, but an individual doing something and someone in some form checking it. And one of the most powerful things about quality engineering is you do it sort of the agile way, the Three Amigos way. You have a conversation about it with the developer or whoever's configuring to make sure that they're actually doing everything that they're required to do at the start, rather than having to raise a bug and go all the way back through release control. The other thing to think about is the 80-20 rule. You sort of mentioned a bit there with the 70-20-10. Quality is uneven. Some stuff always works, some stuff doesn't work. So you've got to try and find the high-risk stuff, the stuff that doesn't work. I just happened to give a Google Tech Talk all about that. If you Google, can't even remember what it's called, Building Software Smarter by Eric Peterson, you get a whole lot of tips on the dev side. But look for where the bugs are happening, where things are complex, things are being checked in dozens and dozens of times. That's where things will have broken. That's where you need to focus. That's where they'll think you're a quality guru.
Yeah, the risk assessment, yeah. No, but that's a very good point. I think a lot of companies struggle with that, and we are struggling with that. There's just no time. There's one project after the another, and we just never have the breather. So that's an excellent point.
But also, just going back to the training question, put into practice what you've learned. If your organisation has told you upskill in automation, it's not enough to just go and do some LinkedIn courses or some Udemy courses. You need to show what you've learned and, show that there's value in that time they've given you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the other opportunity, and sort of goes back to what we were talking earlier about how do testers stay relevant, is really get in and try and understand the technology that is being developed on. That's part of your work. Ask questions, find out more. That will help, I think, on that point of being able to understand where risk areas are more from a technology perspective.
Absolutely.
So I think there's plenty of opportunities within the defined work to learn and grow as well.
That's true. I always tell my team, don't stop at the symptoms. Try to get to the root cause. Talk to the developers. Try to understand the architecture of it. Because once you know the root cause, you will know the scale of the problem, and it will give you confidence. You will know the areas where there will be problems. So, and that's one area to develop. Like, it's a very good skill to have, and it keeps you really relevant. Yeah, completely agree.
We have another question.
Right. Yeah. So
Many organisations.
Sorry, just kidding.
I think it's around many organisations struggling because they're building products instead of purchasing.
The opposite.
they're buying products and then selling as their own. Yeah.
Quality engineering is talked about shift in lab, building testing, and so on.
Yeah.
Organization is actually purchasing their software from another company. How can they move to quality engineering?
Yeah, that's
I've
an
probably
interesting one.
I've probably got a couple of things on this. I think one, and this comes to how products are delivered and third parties, is really looking and leaning in the commercials to how their practice is. So actually having those discussions around how do you do engineering? What quality checks are you building into that process? There is a second part which is a bit more challenging for organizations trying to get on the quality engineering journey, is your architecture. The reality is your software architecture, what systems you have purchased or are integrating in, could actually have a greater impact on you achieving those goals. So it's not something often you can do in isolation within engineering or testing, but you may have to work with architecture teams as well.
So that's just adding the commercial discussions to everything else for quality engineering as well. So well done, Rob.
Any last questions? Yes.
I don't know what it's like here in Australia, but in New Zealand we see job adverts that are plastered with test automation, must know frameworks, must know how to automate. And a lot of these young guys coming out of university learn a tool, but they don't know how to test. They don't know the theory, they don't know why. How would you tackle that?
So I can give it. So we get interns every year, and I have seen that in and out. They probably have tried a tool, but they don't have a overarching idea about software quality at all. And this has been my constant struggle. So we get like a lot of interns every year. We interview them, and we get some interns to software devs, some to software quality, and not a lot of them want to go to software quality because they haven't heard about it. They don't know what it is. And they're like, so what we have started doing now is swap them after 6 months. So we have a year and we swap so that they get the exposure to both of the things. So what I have started doing is when I talk to these interns, professors in universities, or when we go out to universities for, just some events or everything, I raise it. I make it a point that I tell them that you have to have this as you have to give your students exposure to software quality. And software engineering is just not about coding. That's just a part of it. There's a whole thing they need to learn about. So that's how I have tried to, go out and let the universities know that they're missing something here. Yeah.
Got a question for panel. I know this is about the big tech labs and stuff, but why do tech companies always say, hey, testers, you're not important, you're going to be laid off first? Why is that?
Somebody wants to? Yeah. It's a support function, right? So if you look at from business perspective, there is something producing an output, and then there's something checking that output, right? So it's a support function, any product support, quality, regulatory. So from business perspective, if this support function can be done by somebody else, then they save money. Ultimately, they are cutting costs. And I was actually, it's funny, I was talking to one of the friends in the morning and I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to find somebody in India who can teach my daughter because it's cost me half the money. And it's like, see, you are doing it. How can you complain? The business is you as a person trying to find things which provide you the same value at the lower cost, right? So I think that's...
But I think it's also down to us as individuals as well as perhaps leaders within companies to continually show that value. And it's what we've been talking about. Absolutely, we are always targeted perhaps because we're not writing code from that perspective, but really important to show the value, whether it's use your metrics, show what has happened in a project where there hasn't been sufficient testing versus whereas there has been strong testing. So it is absolutely hard, and the finger is always pointed there, but it's about education and continual education.
And I think with the value, one thing is showing value, but actually getting embedded in the team and collaborating. When you are a part of the team, then you are kind of indispensable, right? You are involved in everything. So collaborating and adding that value, definitely, you have to keep doing that, right? You have to keep yourself. But it's unfortunate that companies do that.
and sort of building on that point, I think, teams do look at what else can you contribute to the team. So, we talk about T-shirts and sort of building up other skills. And we've always had that tradition, a little bit of the association between a BA and a QA, but we're also seeing that other side, one of the first roles, and this is a very long time, and it's for Global Investment Bank, and they purposely set up teams with their tester who also contributed to bug fixes. Yeah, and that was part of their pathway, getting into the development team and more senior roles.
Yeah, I don't say it's nice, but it's happening. Yeah, but we can prevent it.
Yeah, and I guess as a QA, just take initiative, step outside your comfort zone, do things that you don't necessarily are not in your PD. Help out, work with the other guys in the team, and show that you're worth having, keeping around.
Yeah.
We've got 1 minute, so I think we'll wrap up. I just wanted to say thank you to our amazing guests. Loved hearing your responses and your insights. And also thank you to Cam for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.